Sounds good. Cool. So today we're going to cover job hunting hacks. Like I said, I want this to be informal, so please just stop me at any time and just ask questions. This is for your benefit. So if you want me to cover something in more depth, just let me know. Quick intro on myself. I know you had a quick high level overview, but I did my bachelor's in marketing in 2013, MBA in 2014, met my husband during the MBA. Now we're married 5 years. And right out of school, first job was an account executive role at Yelp. And then the current role is head of recruiting at Smartcar. The reason why I'm putting my first and current job is because when you are looking for your first job or your first internship, a lot of people put pressure on trying to find the one, the job that you're going to be happy, super happy for the rest of your life the first try. And it's okay to just, get a job and learn more about yourself in terms of what you like and don't like, and then transition out later on in your career. So as you can see, my first job out of school was in sales. It took me probably 2.5 to 3 years to realize that's not my calling, and I switched into recruiting after that. So don't put too much pressure on yourself when you're looking for new jobs. In terms of what you're going to learn today, so we're going to cover a few things. Building a strong LinkedIn profile. There's not a lot of emphasis or not enough emphasis on this. How to network remotely, and then also tips for applying to jobs that'll set you apart from other students and other candidates. So let's dig into building your resume and LinkedIn profile. I know this sounds like common sense for everyone in terms of making sure you actually write what you did and be very data driven and things like that. But I feel like a lot of people don't go into depth as to why it's important to do those things. So out of curiosity, does everyone have LinkedIn or a LinkedIn profile today? And feel free to chat if you don't have your camera on. I also just realized I can't see the chat messages because I'm presenting. So I'll just assume that everyone has a LinkedIn profile today.
So far, we have 2 yeses, so.
Oh, I like that thumbs up. That's great. Perfect. So when you're building out your resume and your LinkedIn profile, first start with building all the content on your resume, just because you're going to be able to copy and paste that into your LinkedIn right after. I don't know how many of you are super creative, but building a solid and pretty resume can be a little bit intimidating. So the good news is there's a lot of tools out there that can actually help you build out a resume. Are any of you familiar with Canva or have used Canva before? We can use the thumbs emoji too, if that works. But for those of you, nice. For those of you who are not familiar with Canva, I'll quickly show you. Let me make my screen larger. It's just canva.com, really cool website. It's free, and you can just click on, where is it? Here, just type in resume. And they have a lot of different types of resumes or layouts that you can choose from. So just choose one and then you can fill out the blanks in the resume. Super easy to use. The main thing I just don't recommend is please don't put a picture. It has nothing to do with your experience and it just doesn't really add anything. So delete that if you do choose to use Canva. Let me get out of this. All right, so the next piece is when you're writing out your resume, make sure to use action words at the start of each bullet. So if you did a marketing internship, for example, you can write as the first word created an Instagram account with 25,000 followers, something like that. Those action words show that you're being proactive. It's starting the sentence of what did you accomplish, which is really helpful. Keep it to one page. There's no reason for anyone to have multiple page resumes. Most recruiters will probably spend maybe 10, 15 seconds scanning through resumes. And if it's 10 pages long, they're probably going to move on to the next person because it just shows that you can't be clear and concise with your background. And the last piece is make sure to use data to back up your accomplishments. So back to the Instagram example, you can say scaled an Instagram account from 0 to 15,000 followers in 2 months. This will really showcase to the recruiter what your accomplishment was and how grand it was. Obviously, when you're early in your career, you're probably not going to have anything crazy like, built $10 million in revenue for a company or something like that. But you can write very simple things like if you're part of an on-campus group. As an example, I was actually part of Up Till Dawn. I don't know if it exists anymore. It was a group to support St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital at UOP. and I helped with fundraising and event organizing. So I was able to write down, raise $2,000 in 1 month for St. Jude's, something like that. For me at the time, it was huge. Now looking back, I'm like, okay, not that big, but still a really good accomplishment, especially when you're starting out in your career. Any questions on this part so far? Okay. Here's just an example of what a strong resume looks like. Please keep it clean, keep it neat, make sure that the headings are clear so that it's really easy to navigate. When you're looking at this, pay attention to where your eye goes. If you have a resume that's too dense, it's going to be really hard to figure out and get that story out of your background. So start with education so that people know, when did you graduate or did you graduate yet, experience, and then even your skill level at the bottom. I would refrain from putting anything personal. That's my, I guess, subjective opinion, but I really don't care for if someone is really good at basketball in their free time. It doesn't tell me about how good they will be in the role. And honestly, with a world where there's just a lot of bias in general, it's easier to just limit that and focus on what you can do as opposed to activities you enjoy doing on the weekend. All right, next, your LinkedIn profile. So when it comes to LinkedIn, honestly, just copy and paste your whole entire resume into LinkedIn. You spend so much time building out every single paragraph, every bullet point. So it's easy to just put that in there, and also use as many relevant keywords. So the reason why I say that is because I'm actually going to give you a glimpse. Let me make this bigger, of what LinkedIn looks like from a recruiter standpoint. All right, so when you join a company as a recruiter, you're going to get access to LinkedIn Recruiter, which is the recruiter's version of what you see. It's $9,000 a year. It's a crazy expensive tool, but what we can access with this is really granular keywords to filter out who we want to hire. So I'll do a quick example, I'll do a quick example. And if we want to hire, let's say, a marketing manager that has a couple years of experience, I can put job title marketing manager. It'll ask me, do I want someone that currently has that title or used to have that title? I'll probably focus on current. It'll even put location. So I want someone that's in the Bay Area because we want someone to be able to come into the office. So one thing that's actually super important is see how this person has San Francisco on their LinkedIn profile. If you're in Stockton, for example, and your LinkedIn profile has Stockton, but you're applying to jobs in SF, recruiters will be less likely to find you if they're searching for your specific profile. So if you're looking for a job in San Francisco, just put your location as San Francisco because you're probably looking to relocate anyways, and that will increase your chances of being seen. So location is something I would put. I will also put keywords. So a strong marketer that we're looking for is probably strong with SEO, SEM, social media, for example. So I'll put that in. And then after putting that in, 609 people will show up. So that's why it's really important to put as many keywords, put as many things that are going to make you stand out so that when recruiters are going through the profiles, you stand out of the 609 people that I just searched for. And then I'm just going to go on my profile because I don't want to invade someone's privacy that I don't know. So I can show you additional things. So for location, I put Mountain View, California here, just because that's where I work. And that's where I want to continue working. So this is where I would suggest for you to put San Francisco or whatever area you want to work in. The next piece is for any internships that you have as well, make sure that you write, or full-time jobs, the location of those jobs as well, so that you can help get filtered into those search results. So if you had an internship in San Francisco, even if it was, just put in that address. I have less keywords on my LinkedIn profile just because when you're not looking for a job, it's kind of weird for someone to put every single thing they've accomplished on their LinkedIn. They also don't want to make it look like to their employers that they're looking for jobs. So that's why I don't really have a bullet point of everything I did. But when you're starting out, it's really important to have that itemized. Any questions on LinkedIn that I can help kind of go more granularly in? Okay, cool. So let's keep going. Make this smaller. All right. We kind of went through this already, but just other aspects of a strong LinkedIn profile is having a professional picture. I know this seems like common sense, but you will be surprised how many times I see people with a headshot of them in the car with a beer can. This is not Facebook, so please make sure that you have, a very solid headshot. You're just looking straight ahead, nothing crazy in the background, and just really focused on you, and that you're dressed professionally as well. And then also adding keywords in the heading. So this is Jackie. She's actually on the recruiting team at Smartcar. And so her keywords are people in operations at Smartcar. So that, and she also has keywords that says recruiting in her profile. So when people are looking for a recruiter at Smartcar, she'll actually show up in the search results. The other piece is connections. Really spend time, especially since we're all remote, building out your connections. And I don't mean like add every single person on LinkedIn, but add people you know in your class, add your professors, and really build that out, because from a perception standpoint, it's really similar to Facebook, where if someone adds you on Facebook and they have 5 friends, for example, you're going to be a little bit sketched out thinking, okay, this might not be a real profile. So it's kind of that the same perception with LinkedIn. You don't have to get to 500 plus connections. That's also a lot, but also try to build it out so that you have more than 10. Next piece is engaging with content on LinkedIn. There's nothing better than being seen on LinkedIn as well. That's the whole point. So if you find articles that you like them, comment them, make sure it's not political in any way and it's professional as well. I see a lot of people posting very heavy political content on LinkedIn, which is not the platform to do that, or they'll put pictures of, I don't know, their summer vacation. So keep it professional. And to give you some stats around how effective that is, on the recruiting team, we actually did a test where every single day we posted content on LinkedIn for a whole entire month. And we posted and we engaged, and we actually saw an increase of applications the next month by 50%. So that tells me that people see us when we do that. So that exact same concept will work for you. And you don't have to be, revolutionary with content to post. If you want to put things, you can do simple things like, if there's a company that you're really excited about that has new openings, share their openings on your LinkedIn. Or if there's an event that you're going to attend, just share the link to the Eventbrite, for example, so that you can share that with your network saying really excited to join blah, blah, blah event. If you're attending events like this, for example, you can take a screenshot of the event and say, oh, so excited to join this, sponsored by EOP and Smartcar, and tag the companies and tag the schools so that you're building that engagement online. And plus the companies and the schools will be happy because they also want engagement. So they'll probably like your content too. Any questions on engagement and hacks? Okay. You guys are all quiet. All right, example of strong LinkedIn continued. Make sure that when you are putting your internships or jobs up, have the company logo there. It looks clean, it looks professional. We already talked about the location piece. And then make sure that you specify when you started and when you ended. The one thing to note is that make sure your dates are very cohesive and just match your resume. I see a lot of people that have different dates on their resume and LinkedIn, and it just makes me confused, because if they don't know, I don't know, I don't know either. So I need people to tell me upfront exactly how many years of experience they have, and be transparent about that. So make sure you double check that, especially if it's just the typo. All right, so now you have a strong LinkedIn profile, you look presentable, it's time to network remotely. Probably the scariest thing to do right now, since it's kind of the unknown and how do you even approach that? But honestly, there is no better time than now to network, because you can network with people pretty much globally since everyone's online at this point. So first things include mock interviews. You usually don't graduate from school being an expert interviewer. My first interview, and I've told this story so many times now, but I honestly am okay with embarrassing myself. But at EOP, the Career Resource Center organized mock interviews. And the day before my mock interview, I just finished playing tennis. It was raining. I ran to my car, slammed the car door into my head, had to go to the ER. It was just a nightmare. And so it wasn't bad enough that I had to stay in the ER, but I had this giant, like huge, like bulb shaped thing or bulge on my head with a scar, and I had to put a giant band-aid over it. I mean, I looked ridiculous. So I went to my mock interview the next day, and the interviewer asked me, "What are your weaknesses?" And I thought I was funny, so I said, car doors apparently. And the only person that was laughing was me. So, so if I didn't practice mock interviews, I would have never known that that's probably not a good answer for interviews. I think some companies would probably laugh, but they would want to follow that up with an actual weakness. But I didn't. I just stuck to car doors and didn't offer any other things. So mock interviews are a great way to practice what to do and what not to do, especially since when you're getting into your career, you're still building that business acumen and you have no idea what's acceptable and not acceptable. So mock interview is a great way to leverage the Career Resource Center at UOP. They have so many different, just connections and tools out there to help you. So definitely leverage that. The next piece is virtual meetups. Has anyone used or gone on meetup.com before? Okay, I'm just gonna assume at least one person did. Oh, let's go back. So meetup.com is a great website just to find different events. You can actually type topics that you're interested in. So if, for example, you're interested in marketing, you can put marketing as a search in the meetup.com and it'll show you all these different events that are happening. And every single event is remote now. So it's a great way to network with people and make sure to just add the speaker at the end of the event as well. Or if you interacted with other attendees, adding them on LinkedIn as well. And when you add someone, what's really important is sending a connect message saying, "Hey, I met you at this event. It was so great to hear you speak." And this will help you remember where you met them a year from now when you're going through your connections, trying to figure out, how do I know this person? And plus, if you ever are interested in applying to a job at their company in the future, you can say, "Hey, remember we met at this networking event. What a small world. Would love to apply to your recruiting role." The next piece is reaching out to alumni to pick their brains. All alumni have a soft spot for their university. So if they see someone else that went to the same school asking to do mock interviews, or if you're just curious as to how they got into their job today, guaranteed their response rate will be a lot higher with alumni than just random people you find on LinkedIn. And then lastly, engage with posts on LinkedIn as well. We already talked about this, but this really helps increase your visibility with other people, and also, tells people that you are active and you are interested in looking for new jobs. One thing that I've seen a lot of people do lately, especially because of COVID and layoffs and things like that, people are just being really bold and going on LinkedIn and posting, "Hey, I was recently laid off. I'm looking for a marketing role. Is there anyone in my network that can refer me to somebody?" And just ask for help. And chances are your post might get reshared. I've seen some people's posts get reshared like 1,000 times, and then recruiters are just all flocking over to reach out to that person and try to recruit them. So that's a good way to also utilize LinkedIn. What else? So the next piece is, I know I mentioned that when you add someone on LinkedIn to write a connect message, here's just an example of what to write, because I know it can feel a little bit intimidating when you're reaching out to someone that you don't know for the first time. So the main things to take into account is 3 things. Make sure it's customized, write their name. Don't just copy and paste a connect message to everybody, or else people will probably not accept it. Explain what your purpose is. So in this case, you want to pick their brain about what their day-to-day looks like. So you're being really transparent with what you want. And then the call to action piece means that you're telling them the date and time you want to talk to them. And the reason why that's so important is because you want to have, your goal with this is to have as few interactions with them as possible online and just hop on a call. So if you just put everything up front, your chances of hopping on a call will be a lot higher because you're also making it easier for them, just throwing out a time. Any questions on the messages? Okay. All right, next piece, applying to jobs. So we're going to cover a couple of things. We'll cover just the traditional way of applying to jobs, and then also how to apply to jobs the non-traditional way if you can't find anything. So the first thing that's really important is figure out a list of what you like and don't like. It sounds self-explanatory, but a lot of people, when they're applying to jobs, they just want anything and they'll just accept the first thing that comes around and then they're not happy and then quit after 3 months. So be thoughtful with what you want. The first piece where you see the examples is an exact replica of what I wrote when I was looking for my next role, which is Smartcar today. I wrote down that I wanted to be the first recruiter at the company. I wanted to join a company that's under 50 people. I love hosting recruiting events, so that was just a must. If the company said no to this, I would not join. A cool product, nice people, and short commute. So those are things that are important to me, and that helped me filter out how I went about searching for Smartcar. So since I knew I wanted to join a startup, I focused my search on only looking at companies that were under 50 people. And there's a website called angel.co that helps you look at every single startup. And I actually found Smartcar through angel.co and applied. The reason why it's important to write what you don't like is because it helps you kind of ground yourself and remind yourself as to what do you not enjoy doing. Because again, when you're really desperate to just find your first job, you'll lose sight of things that you don't like. So things I don't like is doing the same job over and over again and sitting at my desk all day. And in a recruiting role, I'm always out and about. So at Smartcar, we're in Mountain View, but pre-COVID, I would go to the city, meet up with candidates for coffee, take them out for lunch, host events. Like there's just always something going on. All right, the next piece is being organized before applying. Build a spreadsheet for yourself, keep track of everything that you're applying to. A lot of people do not do this, and it shows when you're applying because at Smartcar, we have candidates that will apply for the same job 3 times in the span of 1 week. So when I see that documented in our system, I know that this person's not organized, and I know that they're just probably mass applying to everything, which is okay. You can do that, but just don't make it obvious. So keep track of what did you apply to, what the role was, hyperlink the role as well so that when you are interviewing, you can open it up and reference it. It's really easy to forget what you apply to. And then the other things is make sure that you write who the recruiter is, their name. I get a lot of emails where candidates forget my name and will write the name of another recruiter from a different company and then add the company name too. And I'm just confused. I'm not, we don't work at Square here, but then the candidate thinks they're applying to Square and then I'm just completely confused. So be organized. It'll help you save time and it'll also make you look good. And then if you notice, there's a column that says recruiter and recruiter's email. So if you haven't actually gotten a response yet, you're probably wondering, how do I get that information? So I'm going to show you a fun trick of how to do that. Has anyone used a doorbell before? You can use the emojis, just so I don't know. Okay. So doorbell is the best tool, my most favorite tool in the whole entire world. It actually tells you what the person's email is. So in this scenario, I walked you through an exercise of just using my email. All you have to do is, actually, let's start from the beginning. Let's go on LinkedIn. Let's say you want to join Smartcar. So you'll put Smartcar recruiter. My profile will show up, so you'll know, okay, this is probably the person that leads recruiting at Smartcar. Just double check, that's a yes. And now you know my name. So if we do doorbell live, all you have to do is input the person's first name, person's last name, and domain is just the middle part of the URL of the company. So Smartcar's URL is www.smartcar.com. So the domain is Smartcar. And then click ring the bell. And in green, it'll highlight what my email is. I have 2 emails, so those are the ones that are correct. Super cool tool. So once you have the email, one thing that I always recommend is that people will usually apply online and then just wait to hear back. But if you really want to set yourself apart, just email the recruiter directly in addition to applying and say, hey, I just applied to the XYZ role, hyperlink what the role is, attach your resume and tell them that you're interested in interviewing for the role and suggest a date and time that you're free. Kind of like that LinkedIn Connect message. And just be bold. People who don't ask for things don't get it. So it doesn't hurt to ask. Worst case, they say no, who cares? Can move on to the next one. And this strategy actually really helped me out in my career. So almost every single job I've gotten in my career is because I use this strategy. So Smartcar, I actually emailed the CTO. Base CRM, which is my previous company, I emailed the recruiting manager. We actually ended up getting sushi, which was delicious. And then I got the job after a couple interviews. And then some other success stories too, is because since I'm mainly talking about smaller companies, it also works for bigger companies. So before Smartcar, I thought I wanted to join a big company for some reason. And so I wanted to apply to Workday. I don't know if anyone knows that company, and Netflix. And so what I ended up doing is, instead of trying to find the recruiter for these companies, because they're really big and recruiters usually focus on a smaller number of roles at bigger companies as opposed to smaller companies. So I ended up actually reaching out to the head of recruiting for both. So at the time at Workday, the head of recruiting was Charles Ma. So I emailed him. He responded within like 15 minutes. We hopped on a call that Monday. He interviewed me. There wasn't an opportunity, but I got that opportunity to talk to the head of recruiting at Workday that I wouldn't have not had if I didn't reach out to him. And then I did the same thing at Netflix as well. The head of recruiting didn't actually respond, but forwarded my email to the correct recruiter. The recruiter hopped on a call with me a couple days later, and I found out the opportunity was in LA. I didn't want to move, so it didn't work out. But again, the fact is that it worked for both of these scenarios. And these are things that will set you apart. And I guarantee you, most people will not do it because they're afraid. So if you do it, you'll be one of few. Any questions on being bold? Okay. Cool. The next piece is, sometimes doorbell doesn't work just because it's not necessarily I guess it's a sketchy tool if I just put it transparently. So sometimes it doesn't work. So the alternative to that is, people's emails in companies is not super, what's the word, original. I mean, everyone has the same cadence. So usually if it's a smaller company, the person's email will be firstname@companyname.com. If it's a larger company, it'll usually be firstname.lastname@companyname.com, or first letter and then last name at companyname.com. So one thing that you can do is just one by one, try it out in Gmail. And if it bounces, just try out the next one. The next piece is making sure to customize your resume to the actual role. That's something I see a lot of people not doing. So as an example, if you're applying to a customer success manager role and it says a bullet point around, let's just use partner, with engineering, sales, and marketing. Make sure that you have a bullet point in your resume that talks about how you've worked cross-functionally. Or build strong relationships with customers. Talk about how you've worked with you work with 25 customers a month to help upsell them, or whatever it is. Just make sure that it's catered to that job description. And I'm happy to send this deck out after too, if anyone wants it. The next piece is, I know I touched a little bit on reaching out to the recruiter, hiring manager directly. So here's a sample email that I'm honestly not offended if you want to copy and paste this and just try it out to help you kind of guide your first few outreaches. So be very short and direct. Hi, Jackie, I noticed that you have a full stack engineering opening. Make sure you highlight the role as well, because if you're applying to a big company, there's probably 10,000 full stack engineering roles. So they don't want to go and spend 15 minutes to figure out which role is assigned or is more a better fit for you. So make sure that you're doing all that legwork beforehand. And then make sure you attach your resume as well. This email is not as bold as what I would prefer. So the last part says, please let me know what time would work best to connect in the next few days. What I think is a stronger email, honestly, is to say, please let me know if you're free on Tuesday at 8 a.m. to connect. And then if they say yes, take that first move and send them a calendar invite and ask them what number you should use to reach them at. So you're just speeding up the process. Here's just an example of what not to write. I get this a lot. People will just say, hey, I'm looking for a software engineer role. I have experience with React and Node.js. I graduated from XYZ school. Do you have any openings? If you didn't take any time to look at what openings we have on our website, it just shows me that you're mass emailing every single company and that you're not actually interested in Smartcar. So I might take a peek at their resume and see if we have an opening, but it's already not giving me a good impression of this candidate, especially since we have like 2 openings on our website right now. So when I get this email, it just makes me think like you couldn't look through the 2 roles that we have on our careers page. The next thing that's super important is the timing of your email. So there's an art to all of this, or a science, I guess. But if you send an email on a Friday at 5 p.m., the chances of your email getting a response is very low. People want to wrap things up and start their weekend. I'm sure we can all relate to this. It's like if you get a homework, on Friday at 5, you don't really want to do it right now. So the best days to reach out are usually Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and even Sundays. And the earlier the better. So usually 6 a.m. on those days are the best times. So if you're going to reach out on Gmail and you're not an early bird, you can actually use, I don't know if any of you have used this, but there's a schedule send tool within the Gmail, within your Gmail account. And you can schedule an email to send at 6 a.m. on Wednesday, for example, so that you don't have to wake up that early. And then last piece, just don't reach out during holidays either. And don't reach out on Mondays. Everyone's Monday is usually chaotic. All right. Last piece is we talked a little bit about just the traditional way of applying, where you just go on a company website, you find a role and you apply and you reach out to the recruiter. But I know with COVID and everything going on, I'm sure a lot of you are struggling to find internships. I know a lot of companies are scaling down on internships. We have companies are scaling down on full-time jobs as well. So it's really important for you to kind of take your own destiny at hand and be scrappy. So a couple ideas I would suggest, and things I've actually personally tried in the past, is smaller companies are usually a little bit more lenient with hiring. So before, when I graduated from UOP, and I didn't get an offer yet from any company. So this was before even Yelp sent me an offer. I actually went on angel.co, that website I was mentioning for startups. And I found this cute little startup that makes French desserts. It's just, the packaging was so adorable. And back in the day, their marketing wasn't that strong. And I thought I wanted to go into marketing. So I actually emailed the CEO, just cold outreach. And I said, hey, I noticed that you're not doing too much with marketing right now. I have a few ideas of what to do. Would you be open to hopping on a call and seeing if there's a fit here? So even if there isn't an opportunity on the company's website, if it's a small company, it doesn't hurt to just email the CEO and just try it out. So I ended up hopping on a call with the CEO of this company, and he was actually really excited about the ideas that I put together, and he ended up actually offering me an internship/job. And the negative part of what I did, which I regret, was I ended up right after getting an opportunity from Yelp and signing the contract. So then I wasn't able to do both the marketing job and Yelp. So I ended up having to call the CEO back. It was such a jerk move, but I kind of had to do it because I also needed the full-time job. So then I had to kind of retract from wanting to do that. But my point is, be bold and just reach out and try things. Because if you just sit there kind of, complaining about how you're not getting any jobs, it's not going to help you. The other piece is, I know I'm focusing a lot on marketing, but if you are interested in social media, for example, you can do simple things like just start your own Instagram account and learn everything about Instagram and how to increase followers, increase engagements, learn their terms and services and how they work, and figure that out so you're gaining experience on your own. This is actually something I did where this was more for fun. I didn't actually want to go into marketing later, but I made an Instagram account for my dog. I spent 1 month every single day just learning everything about Instagram, watching YouTube videos, and within a month, I grew it from 0 to 10,000 followers a couple of years ago. So this is doable, and you can put it on your resume and say, hey, I did this for whatever. If you're into fashion, you can do it about clothes. If you like food, you can do it about food. An example for a different role, let's take sales. You're not finding any sales roles. Find a local restaurant in Stockton. Talk to them and say, hey, can we work together? And I can help you increase sales by doing XYZ. You can give me, I don't know, 3% commission or something like that. Or for every new customer you get, you can give me $2 or whatever, and try out different strategies in place. So now you're building your own experience there. Is there any role that anyone wants to kind of throw out at me that I didn't cover that you want me to think of, an outside of the box idea? I can't see messages, so if there are any, please just shout out. Okay, cool. So the next things include just using LinkedIn. Go on LinkedIn, the jobs page, Glassdoor jobs, Angel.co also has jobs. And this is a great way to help you find internships and full-time roles as well. And then that concludes the presentation. But does anyone have any questions about anything? Was this helpful? Do you have new ideas of how to go about things?
Hi.
Hey,
That was really helpful. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
of course.
I've been actually looking for an internship. I'm a bioengineering student major. But I don't have a ton of experience. So I was wondering if you'd recommend anything for me.
Sure. I'm honestly not super familiar with bioengineering. We've only been recruiting for software development roles, but I think one of the things is to just use some of those strategies where you can reach out to smaller businesses and see what you can do, or I'm trying to think of what else. Is there a specific area within bioengineering that you're super excited about?
I'm looking into like drug delivery stuff, I guess, especially
Okay.
with the COVID vaccine. I applied to a few internships at, do you know Cepheid?
I'm not familiar.
Okay, they're like a bioengineering company, right? I applied to a few internships with them. But I'm like waiting on that, and I'm not really sure like where to go. When you talked about like just applying, like mass applying, I did that kind of. So I feel like I'm not really sure like a direction, I guess.
Sure. So when you applied, did you just focus on the website and just sending your resume and wait, or did you also reach out to the recruiter or even the CEO, depending
So
on how big the company is?
yeah, for Cepheid, I met them through like a job meetup thing that Pacific had, and then I talked to the recruiter and some of the people who work there, and like it was like it was just like a chat, I guess. And then they told me to send in like apply through Handshake, and then email her, like the recruiter person, when I did that. So I did all that, and I emailed her back, and she said great, and then. Yeah, so now I'm just waiting, I think.
Got it. So a couple of things that don't hurt is just follow up with the recruiter. It does happen sometimes where things fall through the cracks and they just didn't check their email. So just send a bump up message saying, hey, wanted to check back in on the status. Like, please let me know if you need anything else from me. If the recruiter doesn't respond, how big is this company?
It's pretty big.
Like thousands of people?
Yes.
Okay, so then the other option is because it's a bigger company, just go on LinkedIn and type head of recruiting and then the name of that company and find who that is and email them directly instead. You can just skip a level. Obviously, that strategy doesn't really work well if it's a 20-person company because then it'll just feel kind of, weird because they'll talk probably. But because this is a bigger company, it's totally okay to do that, especially if it's a company you're really excited about. And if so for the companies, whenever you're applying, there's probably like 2 out of the 40 or 50 companies that you're applying to that you're really excited and you do anything to get that job. So for companies like that, I would definitely go above and beyond with your resume and your email. So some of the things, I'll have to give an engineering specific software engineering example just because I'm not super familiar with bioengineering, but for more junior software engineers, what I always tell them is, so our company is an API company and we make it possible for other companies to remotely access cars over the internet and just remotely unlock the car without using the key and things like that. So I always encourage engineers to actually build out an application that works with our API and then send it to us over Gmail so that I can see these inner workings of what they created. I know with bioengineering might be a little bit different, but you can kind of walk through what you would do in this role and how you would do it so that you're kind of doing an interview without really talking to anyone, if that makes sense. So if it's a company you're really excited about, I would definitely write in words what you would do, like what makes you different, so that you're standing out from other candidates. And then if they don't respond, honestly, there's not too much you can do at the end of the day after you've tried a couple things. You just have to kind of scrap it and move on. Or actually, the other thing that you can do is just reach out to an employee that's not on the recruiting team at that company and just say, hey, I want to pick your brain about the role. It's something that I would love to interview for one day or something like that, and hop on a call with them. And if it goes well, you can ask for a referral. So that's another sneaky way that you can go about it, but it depends on how badly you want the role too, because it takes a lot of work.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course. Actually, that strategy is also good for when you are interviewing at a company and you're not sure if you want to accept the offer. So there was one company that I interviewed for, and I honestly got a really bad vibe the whole entire interview process, but I couldn't pinpoint what the vibe was, and I also wanted a job. So I ended up reaching out on LinkedIn to 3 people on the recruiting team that were former employees and a few that were current employees to get their thoughts on what the culture was like. And the former employees said just very negative things, and the current employees were basically telling me they're about to quit. So I knew from there that I should not accept that offer. So that's also a great way to kind of do due diligence when you're interviewing for companies. Yeah, any other questions I can help with, or try to help with at least?
You mentioned something about when updating your LinkedIn, you don't want it's to seem to your employer that you're looking for a new job.
Mm-hmm.
So should you avoid updating your LinkedIn until you're actually looking for a new job?
So if you're early in your career, there's honestly no problem with writing what you do as long as it's consistent for every single job that you have on LinkedIn. So for example, okay, here. You can see that with my, okay, let's go way back to 2013 when I was a student caller at UOP. I wrote down what I did, and I kept that consistent throughout the years, even at Yelp and then at Google. And then when I joined Base is when I just stopped doing it, just because once you gain enough experience, no one really reads into all the details anymore, because they just look at years of experience. So when you're starting out, if you keep it consistent and just put it for every role and every internship you have, it's okay to do that, even while you're working there, so that it doesn't look like you're looking for a new job. But it also depends on the size of the company. If it's a startup, my company's 19 people. So if out of the blue one day I start writing down everything I'm doing, when I didn't do that for Base CRM, it's just going to look suspicious. But at Google, there's what, like 100,000 people. No one's going to look at all the, or at least HR is not really going to look at all of this. Maybe your manager, but I doubt your manager at a bigger company is going to look at your LinkedIn profile.
Okay, thank you.
So I think it's just assess the situation on what makes most sense.
Mathilde, I had a question. So with LinkedIn, I know you are using the paid feature, and I know a new feature right now with everything going on, they have the open to work that you can feature. Is that something that you search for when you're doing the filters? Are you looking for folks that have that in their profile photo or have that in their heading? Is that just something that's kind of been thrown into your recruiting search now with that header?
Yeah, so for the picture, I mean, it doesn't, so when I see open to new opportunity on the actual picture itself, it doesn't deter me from reaching out, but it also doesn't make me want to reach out more, if that makes sense. I'm still going to look at the experience level, but for LinkedIn Recruiter, the cool thing is I can actually filter out specifically people that are open to work with the marketing manager role. So when I'm searching for a new role for the first time, I might actually start with that filter and just see, and then take that filter out. But the cool thing is, even if I take that filter out, it'll still show me people that are open to work.
Awesome.
It won't cancel them out.
Okay.
I feel weird putting these people on blast who don't know, showing their profiles. Yeah. Any other questions I can help answer? Is anyone struggling to find internships and they've been searching for 6 months? Is anyone unsure with what they even want to do for work? Because one thing to also consider too is if you're a freshman or a junior, this is the perfect opportunity to try as many different things as possible. So I know my advice is make sure you choose the right one, but I think that's more for when you graduate. when you're in your kind of exploration phase, it's good to just try everything. Just try marketing, finance, things like that. At UOP, part of the MBA program, we all had to actually do a 2-month internship. That was just part of passing the program. So I did a finance internship thinking I would like it. It was a great learning opportunity, but I despised it so much. I cannot sit down at a desk and crunch numbers all day. So it made me realize this is not an avenue I want to take later on, and saves me time in my career, at least later on, that I don't have to, change companies. So definitely explore everything. Just try it all. Cool. Well, if there's no more questions, I guess it's a wrap.
Thank you so much. Would it be helpful if you want to go ahead and email this to me? I will go ahead and
Sure.
email all the participants. I know there was some really helpful links in there and snapshots. So if you didn't have a chance to write anything down, I'll go ahead and email folks after the presentation.
Sounds good. Yeah, I can email that over. And if any of you want to connect on LinkedIn and talk further, I know sometimes it's a little bit intimidating to talk about your personal job searching struggles in front of everyone. So if you want to catch up over the phone, I'm happy to do that.